All right, all right, all right. Here we go. All right, we back for part six. We back for part six. Welcome in, everybody. We are completing our reading of the instructions for the 709 form. Um, we over here are literate people. We are not financial advisors. We are not, we don't offer advice, legal advice, financial advice. I can't tell you what the best pick is. I don't know what the best pick is. I don't know what the weather is going to be tomorrow. All right. Don't ask me. I don't know nothing. All right. We do read, though. We're literate. And over here, we read in the 709 form, the instructions for it. So TikTok, don't shut us down for reading. All right. If you've been here before, you know what it is. We starting off. We finished up Schedule C. We're reading Schedule D now. All right, we're gonna try to finish this up today before the sun goes down because um, I got other things to do when the sun go down. So I'm gonna try to get through this real quick, but not too quick. For okay, so on this side, on the YouTube side, I ain't got to worry about no comments because this just gonna be a recording for y'all that y'all can play back later at a different time. But if you got any questions on the TikTok live, just put them up there. All right, we're gonna start the reading. Schedule D, computation of generation skipping transfer tax. Part 1, generation skipping transfers. Enter in Part 1 all the gifts you listed on Part 2 of Schedule A in the same order, showing the same values if values, period. If reporting the GST portion of transfers subject to an ETIP, see how to report GSTs after the close of an ETIP later. Column A, list items from Schedule A, Part 2, Column A in the same order. Next, list items to be reported on Schedule D, including ETIP transfers, if any. Column B, only provide descriptions for ETIP transfers, otherwise leave blank. Column D, you are allowed to claim the gift tax annual exclusion currently allowable for your reported direct skips other than certain direct skips to trust. See note below. Using the rules and limits discussed earlier for the gift tax annual exclusion. However, you must allocate the exclusion on a gift by gift basis for GST computation purposes. You must allocate the exclusion to each gift to the extent desired, but not exceeding the maximum allowable amount in chronological order, beginning with the earliest gift that qualifies for the exclusion. Be sure that you do not claim a total exclusion of more than $19,000 per donee. All right. Sorry about that. My grand snake is loose. I got her running around because my kid don't be paying attention to her. All right, where was that? Sorry about that. Note, you may not claim any annual exclusion for a transfer made to a trust unless the trust meets the requirements discussed under Part 2 earlier. How to report GSTs after the close of an ETIP. If you are reporting a GST, hold on, let me read that again. Sorry about that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If you are reporting a GST that occurred because of the close of an ETIP. Complete part one as follows. Column B, for transfers subject to an ETIP only, describe each transfer as provided in the instructions. For part one of Schedule A. In addition, describe the interest that is closing the ETIP. Explain what caused the interest to terminate. List the date the ETIP closed and list the year of the gift portion of the transfer. Hold on, let me read that again. In addition, describe the interest that is closing the ETIP. Explain what caused the interest to terminate. List the date the date the ETIP closed and list the year of the gift portion of the transfer was reported and its item number on Schedule A that was originally filed to report the gift portion of the ETIP transfer. Column C, number 1. If the GST exemption is being allocated on a timely filed exclusion extensions gift tax return, enter the value as if the close of the ETIP. Number 2, if the GST exemption is being allocated on the late filed past due date, including extensions, gift return, enter the value as of the date of the gift tax, the date the gift tax return was filed. Part 2, GST exemption reconciliation, section 2631, line 1. Every donor is allowed a lifetime GST exemption. The amount of the exemption for 2025 is $13,990,000. For transfers made through 1998, the GST exemption was $1 million. The exemption amounts through 1999 through 2025 are as follows. I'm not going to read you all that because it's, unless you are filed, you know what? No, I'm not going to read you all. So it starts in 1999. Obviously, it has grown. Our money system has changed, not changed, but it has was changed since 1999. And now the exemption is greater, simply put. In 1999, the exemption was $1,010,000. Today, or as of 2025, the exemption value is $13,990,000. That is the amount that you can gift as long as you are meeting all these requirements. As far as I understand, I am not nobody. Hold on. Girl, what is you doing? All right. In general, each annual increase can only be allocated to the transfers made or appreciation occurring during or after the year of increase. That's why they list all of the years. Because it's possible that you're trying to account for a gift that you made, I don't know, in 2018 or something like that. So that's why they give you all of the years so you can calculate it. Example, a donor made $1,750,000 in direct skip GSTs through 2005 and allocated all $1,500,000 of the exemption to those transfers. So I would go to 2005 and I would see in 2005 the exemption amount was $1,500,000. That was the max in 2005. So here is again the example. A donor made $1,750,000 in direct skip GSTs through 2005 and allocated $1,500,000 of the exemption to those transfers. In 2025, the donor makes a $2 million taxable GST. The donor can allocate $2 million of exemption to the 2025 transfer, but cannot allocate 10,490,000 of the unused 2025 exemption to pre-2025 transfers. Does that make sense? You can't go back to what the money used to be, right? Like people say, gas was cheaper back in the day. Well, you can't roll up to the gas station and say, hey, I want to pay 1972 prices. That ain't how it works. However, and if in 2005, the donor made $1,750,000 transferred to a trust that was not a direct skip, but from which GSTs could be made in the future, the donor could allocate the increased exemption to the trust, even though no additional transfers were made to the trust. See Regulations 26.2642-4 for the redetermination of applicable fraction when additional exemption is allocated to the trust. That was a mouthful, but like we say, questions, because that sounds nice. Sound like an opportunity to me. I like it. Keep a record of your transfers and exemption allocations to make sure any future increases are allocated correctly. Enter on line 1 of part 2 the maximum GST exemption you are allowed. This will not necessarily be the highest indexed amount if you made no GSTs during the year of the increase. So again, this is not magic. This is all predicated on you making some money. So you gotta derive income from something, or create income in some way, or move income from one place to another. There has to be some type of income flowing. Okay, this is not, as my wife is always saying, this is not for broke people, because your mindset can't be, I don't have anything and I'm waiting for y'all to teach me how to become rich. No, this is for people that have the mindset of, I'm trying to move this here, I got to move this here. Is there a way for me to save? Maybe I can do. That's what this is for. People who are doing things. And because of where we live, the place where we live, talk shit about it or not, you have great opportunity to help your money move. If you don't see that, I don't know what's wrong with you. Enter on line 1, part. Is this you? Hey, Fee. Whatever. I'm sorry, I gotta get back to it. Hold on. I lost my place. Okay. Enter on line 1 of part 2 the maximum GST exemption you are allowed. This will not necessarily be the highest indexed amount if you made no GSTs during the year of the increase. The donor can apply this exemption to inter vivos transfers, that is, transfers made during the donor's lifetime, on Form 709. The executor can apply the exemption on Form 706 to transfers taking effect at death. The allocation is irrevocable. In the case of inter vivos direct skips, a portion of the donor's unused exemption is automatically allocated to the transferred property, unless the donor elects otherwise. To elect out of the automatic allocation of exemption, you must file a Form 709. Just crumple the bag louder, why don't you?
I'm so sorry, hon. That's it.
Where the heck was that at? I don't know where I was at. Okay. In the case of inter vivos direct skips, a portion of the donor's unused exemption is automatically allocated to the transferred property unless the donor elects otherwise. To elect out of the automatic allocation of exemption, you must file Form 709 and attach a statement to it clearly describing the transaction and the extent to which the automatic allocation is to apply. Reporting a direct skip on a timely file Form 709 and paying the GST tax on the transfer will prevent an automatic allocation. In other words, handle your business and nobody else has to do it for you. Line 5. Section 2632C provides an automatic allocation to indirect skips if any unused GST exemption. The unused exemption is allocated to indirect skips to the extent necessary to make the inclusion ratio 0 for the property transferred. You may elect out of this automatic allocation as explained in the instructions for Part 3. Line 6. The amount of GST exemption you are applying to transfers. I said that wrong. Sorry. Let me start. Enter the amount on line 6. Enter the amount of GST exemption you are applying to transfers reported in Part 3 of Schedule A. You may also wish to allocate GST exemption to transfers not reported on this return, such as a late allocation. Notice of allocation. To allocate your exemption to such transfers, attach a statement to this Form 709 and entitle it Notice of Allocation. The notice must contain the following for each trust or other transfer. Clear identification of the trust, including the trust EIN if known. If this is a late allocation, the year the transfer was reported on Form 709. The value of trust assets at the effective date of the allocation. The amount of your GST exemption allocated to each gift, or a statement that you are allocating exemption by means of a formula such as an amount necessary to produce an I'm gonna read that again. The amount of GST exemption allocated to each gift, or a statement that you are allocating exemption by means of a formula such as an amount necessary to produce an inclusion ratio of 0. The inclusion ratio of the trust after allocation. Total the exemption allocations and enter this on line 6. Note, where the property involved in such a transfer is subject to an ETIP, an allocation of the GST exemption at the time of the transfer will only become effective at the end of the ETIP. For details, see transfers subject to an estate tax inclusion period, ETIP, earlier in section 2642F. Part 3, tax computation. You must enter in Part 3 every gift you listed in Part 1 of Schedule D. Column C. You are not required to allocate your available exemption. You may allocate some, all, or none of your available exemption, as you wish, among the gifts listed in Part 3 of Schedule D. However, the total exemption claimed in column C may not exceed the amount you entered on line 3 of Part 2 of Schedule D. Column D. Carry your computation to 3 decimal places. For example, 1, decimal place 0, 0, 0. Part 2. Tax computation. Part 1 of Form 709. Lines 4 and 5. To compute tax, excuse me, say it again. To compute the tax for the amount on line 3 to be entered on line 4. Add the tax amount on line 2 to be entered on line 5. Use the table for computing gift tax. Line 7. The applicable credit, formerly unified credit, amount is the tentative tax on the applicable exclusion amount. For gifts made in 2025, the applicable exclusion amount equals the basic exclusion amount of $13,990,000 plus any DSUE amount plus any restored exclusion amount. If you are a citizen or resident of the United States, you must apply any available applicable credit against gift tax. Now, I keep saying this to y'all. I keep saying this. Y'all, people complaining about the wrong stuff. People complaining about the wrong stuff, man. Y'all really are. I mean, I don't know. Look, man, I ain't even gonna get all political. It's stuff happening right now. Y'all see it. I ain't gonna say what's happening. It's stuff happening. There's arguments happening, and people are complaining, and stuff's happening. That's all I'm gonna say. But while all that stuff's happening, everything that I'm reading is still very relevant. So pick what you pay attention to. You pick what you pay attention to. You can pay attention to the nonsense, or you can keep it moving. Because, man, real life is happening. It's right in front of your face. All you gotta do is read. Or not. Or keep scrolling. It's up to you. But I'm gonna read that again for myself. If you are a citizen or a resident of the United States, you must apply any available applicable credit against gift tax. You must do it. Don't just sit there and be taxed. Apply this credit, fool. Is that how I got to be said to you? Is it because they said it too regular? Do they need to actually say it in what is it, babe? What is the reading level? Average American English? I don't know what they call it. Conversational English? Is that what they call it? 3rd grade, 5th grade reading level? Is that what it has to be? Is that the problem? If you are a U.S. citizen or a resident of the United States, you ain't even got to be a citizen. You could just be a resident. You must apply any available applicable credit, and the credits they just told you right here, the basic exclusion amount, any DSUE plus any restored exclusion amount, if that's your thing, if that's your thing. For same-sex marriages and stuff, that's it. Add all that up, stupid. Any available applicable credit against the gift tax. What are you complaining about? If you're not eligible to use a DSUE amount from a predeceased spouse, so your spouse ain't died, or restored exclusion amount on taxable gifts made to a same-sex spouse, so you don't have a same-sex spouse, you're not gay, right? Enter 5,541,800 on line 7. Non-residents, not citizens of the United States, may not claim the applicable credit and should enter 0 on line 7. So you mean to tell me all the people that's getting kicked out, they got to enter 0. But all the rest of you fuckers that are complaining, even you got 5 million. Man, let me just finish this because this is going to piss me off. If you are eligible to use a DSUE amount from a predeceased spouse or restored exclusion amount for taxable gifts to a same-sex spouse or both, complete Schedule C, deceased spousal unused exclusion amount, and enter the amount from line 5 on that schedule on line 7 of Part 2 tax computation. Determine a tentative tax on the applicable exclusion amount using the rates in the table of computing gift tax and enter the result on line 7. Line 10. Enter 20% of the amount allowed as a specific exemption for gifts made after September 8th, 1976, and before January 1st, 1977. These amounts will be among those listed in Schedule B, Column D, for gifts made in the third and fourth quarters of 1976. Line 13. Gift tax conventions are in effect with Australia, Austria, Denmark, France, Germany, Japan, and the United Kingdom. If you are claiming a credit for payment of a foreign gift tax, figure the credit and attach the calculation of Form 709, along with evidence that the foreign taxes were paid. Never mind. See the applicable convention for details of computing the credit. I just want to know where else you can do that. Where else can I pay taxes in another country? And then, I mean, this is a question. I don't know the answer. I'm just asking. But that makes me think to ask the question because I don't know. So I'm asking the question. Where else can I do that? Come back to my home country and be like, man, I'm messing around, pay some taxes somewhere else. And my home country say, man, we got you. We will credit you. We got that. Line 19, tax due. If the amount on line 17 is more than the amount on line 18, subtract line 18 from line 17. This is the amount you owe. Making a payment. The IRS recommends paying electronically whenever possible. Options to pay electronically include any of the payment options below. Also, go to irs.gov payments and frequently asked questions on estate taxes for more detailed break information. EFTPS, payment of the tax due may be submitted electronically through the Electronic Federal Tax Payment System, EFTPS. EFTPS is a free service of the Department of Treasury. See irs.gov/EFTPS and EFTPS.gov for more information. Same-day wire, payment of a tax due may be submitted electronically through the same-day wire from your financial institution. Contact your financial institution for availability, cost, and timeframes. See irs.gov/same-day wire and how do I make an electronic payment under frequently asked questions on estate taxes on irs.gov for the worksheet and more information. Paying by check. Make checks payable to the United States Treasury. Write the donor's TIN and Form 709 to assist us in posting it to the proper account. See irs.gov/pay by mail for more information. Paying by cash. You may be able to pay your balance due with cash at participating retail stores. See irs.gov/pay cash. Line 20, overpayment. If you have access to U.S. banking services, you should use direct deposit for any refunds whenever possible. See irs.gov/direct deposit for more information. Direct deposit is available for this form. If there is an overpayment when filing your return, complete Part 2, lines 20B, 20C, and 20D to input your direct deposit information. Line 20A. If line 20A is under $1, we will send a refund only on written request. Line 20B. The routing number must be 9 digits. The first 2 digits must be 0. I'm sorry. Read that again. The first two digits must be 01 through 12 or 21 through 32. Ask your financial institution for the correct routing number to enter on line 20B. If the routing number on the deposit slip is different from the routing number on your checks, your deposit is to a savings account that doesn't allow you to write checks, or your checks state they are payable through a financial institution different from the one that which you have your checking account. Line 20C, check the appropriate box for the type of account. Don't check more than one box. You must check the correct box to ensure your deposit is accepted. The account number can be up to 17 characters, both numbers and letters. Include hyphens but omit spaces and special symbols. Enter the number from left to right and leave any unused boxes blank. Where's you going, girl? Sorry, distracted by his name. Don't include the check number. Signature. As a donor, you must sign the return. If you pay another person, firm, or corporation to prepare your return, that person must also sign the return as a preparer unless that person is your regular full-time employee. Remember, if you and your spouse have consented to split gifts, your spouse must also sign and date a notice of consent to be attached to the return. Third-party designee. If you want to allow a return preparer listed on the bottom of page 1 of Form 709 to discuss your 2025 Form 709 with the IRS, check the yes box to the far right of your signature on page 1 of your return. If you check the yes box, you and your spouse, if splitting gifts, are authorizing the IRS to call your return preparer to answer questions that may arise during the processing of your return. If you are authorizing the return preparer of your 2025 Form 709 to You are also authorizing the return preparer of your 2025 Form 709 to give the IRS any information that is missing from your return. Call the IRS for information about the processing of your return or status of your payment. Receive copies of notices or transcripts related to your return upon request, and respond to certain IRS notices about math errors, offsets, and return preparation. You are not authorizing your return preparer to receive any refund check, to bind you to anything, including additional tax liability, or otherwise represent you before the IRS. If you want to expand the authorization of your return preparer, see Publication 947, Practice Before the IRS and Power of Attorney. The authorization will automatically end 3 years from the date of filing Form 709. If you wish to revoke the authorization before it ends, see Publication 947. Okay, that is basically, this is, well, you know what? I wasn't going to read this last part. This was just a privacy disclosure, but I'm going to read this anyway. You know why? Because it's on the instructions. And I told you I'm going to read the instructions, so I'm going to read this part too. But before I go into the next section, again, this is not magic. And I'm not here saying that it's easy, because it's not, okay? But adulting requires us to do things that are hard. And if we're trying to take care of ourselves, then we're going to have to learn some of this hard stuff. And the only way to do it is to read. Now, I'm not saying that like I'm better than y'all, because I'm sure there's something about this stuff that I don't know either. I don't know some of the stuff that I'm reading currently, but we have to have the mindset to at least want to learn what it is we don't know. That's all. I noticed, and when I was reading this, it said, if you want to expand the authorization of your return preparer, see Publication 947, Practice Before the IRS and Power of Attorney. So that specific thing is telling me, again, they're not giving me legal advice, right? They're not giving me financial advice because they always say we can't do that, right? But they're telling you that there's a publication. There's a publication and they ain't say no cost to it. So I'm going to assume, which is not always a good idea, but I'm going to assume that this is a free publication. Just like before when it said see this and see that, see 24 this, see that. These are all things that I can see. It's not telling me to go see it because I can't. I can access this information. So then if I don't access that information, then there's nothing to complain about. I just got to take that on the chin and be like, man, I didn't know that. That's something that maybe I should have known that, but I just didn't know. But what I can do is try to learn it from here on out. That's it. That's all we're doing. The best we can do. But don't be quick to complain though if we're not quick to try to learn. That's all I'm saying. All right, so let's finish out the rest of this. Disclosure, Privacy Act, and Paperwork Reduction Act notice. We ask for the information on this form to carry out the Internal Revenue laws of the United States. We need the information to figure and collect the right amount of tax. Form 709 is used to report number one, transfers subject to the federal gift and certain GST taxes, and to figure the tax, if any, due on those transfers. And number two, allocations of the lifetime GST exemption to the property transferred during the transferor's lifetime. Our legal right to ask for the information requested on this form is found in sections 6001 and I'm just going to say 6001, 6011, 6019, 6061, and their regulations. You are required to provide the information requested on this form. Section 6109 requires that you provide your identifying number. Generally, tax returns and return information are confidential. As stated in Section 6103, however, read that again. Generally, tax returns and return information are confidential, as stated in Section 6103. However, Section 6103 allows or requires the Internal Revenue Service to disclose or give such information shown on your Form 709 to the Department of Justice to enforce the tax laws, both civil and criminal, and to cities, states, and the District of Columbia and the U.S. Commonwealths and territories for use in administering their tax laws. We may also disclose this information to other countries under a tax treaty, to federal and state agencies to enforce federal non-tax criminal laws, or to federal law enforcement and intelligence agencies to combat terrorism. We may disclose the information on your Form 709 to the Department of Treasury and contractors for tax administration purposes, and to other persons as necessary to obtain information that we cannot get any other way for purposes of determining the amount of or to collect the tax you owe. We may disclose information on your Form 709 to the Comptroller General to review the Internal Revenue Service. We may also disclose information on your Form 709 to committees of Congress, federal, state, and local child support agencies, and to other federal agencies for the purpose of determining entitlement for benefits or the eligibility and repayment of loans. If you are required to, but do not file a Form 709, or do not provide the information requested on the form, or provide fraudulent information, you may be charged with penalties and subject to criminal prosecution. You are not required to provide the information requested on the form that is subject to the Paperwork Reduction Act, unless the form displays a valid OMB control number. Books or records relating to a form or its instructions may be retained as long as their contents may become material in the administration of any internal revenue law. This is the end of it, but this to me was the most important thing that I read when I first read all these 24 pages. The time needed to complete and file this form will vary depending on individual circumstances. The estimated average time is, and it goes underneath to list each one. Okay, listen to this. Record keeping, 52 minutes. Learning about the law or the form, 1 hour, 53 minutes. Preparing the form, 2 hours, 21 minutes. Copying, assembling, and sending the form to the IRS, 1 hour and 3 minutes. So I'm going to round up and say that record keeping is, I'm going to round, it's 52 minutes that they are saying is an estimated average time. I'm going to round that up to an hour. And then they say learning about the law or the form they have as an hour and 53 minutes. I'm just going to round that up to 2 hours. And then preparing the form is 2 hours and 20 minutes. We'll round that down to 2 hours. Copying, assembling, and sending the form to your IRS, another hour and 3 minutes, which we will round to an hour. So the estimated average time, if we're rounding, is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 hours. This is what they recommend on average. You can't file this form if you don't even know what the form is. In order to know what the form is, you better learn the law behind it, because they just told you it's penalties. So you need to know the laws. And if you make a mistake, or how do I fix it, right? Who's this? Bezo invites you to co-host one other creator. Damn, you made me forget my train of thought. Y'all know I'm old. I don't be remembering shit. Dang, what was I saying? The kids distracted me with the stupid pop-ups. Dang, lost my train of thought. Oh, I was saying, out of this whole 24 pages, the part that stood out to me the most was this last paragraph, in which they tell you that they recommend 6 hours. 6 hours. And that's on average. I'm going to go ahead and say, I don't know this stuff. Because I don't know it, I think it might take me longer than 6 hours. So now, my question to you, class, is when you're going to on the internet and doing these classes with these gurus and stuff and all that, are you, before you send these people anything, are you dedicating a minimum of 6 hours to what they're talking about? Minimum. If not, you need to do that. You need to do that. You need to have hours dedicated to understanding what the heck this is, what is they even talking about, before you make a move. And I would even say, and this is not advice, let me say this, I take that back, because that sounds like I'm telling y'all what to do. Let me say it like this. I would learn about the thing before I tried it. And I would dedicate a lot of hours. And since they're telling me on their own form, you need 6 hours to understand this, minimum, I would double that, because like we said in the last video that we did, we speak English, but we aren't English. So I would double that. I'd say 12 hours. I need a minimum of 12 hours to read over this stuff, learn this stuff before I even try this. I'm not trying to, if I don't understand, I ain't doing it. If I think I understand it, I'll attempt it, because at least I think I know what I'm doing, and then I can at least try to fix it, or at least I know where to go. IRS.gov, I can, something. But please read. And they're saying the same thing. They're saying dedicate 6 hours to this. If you dedicate less than 6 hours to this, you're a fool, because it told you right there in the damn instructions. That's it. It's not magic. All right. That is part 6. That is the end of the instructions. That's all 24 pages of the 709 instructions. And that was our read. We read it. I'm not claiming to understand it any better than any of you. What I am saying is that learn. Take the time to learn. All of our situations aren't the same. We saw that with the DSUE. That's a deceased spouse. Everybody ain't even married to have a deceased spouse. And we saw with the same-sex marriages, everybody's not in the same-sex marriage. So that ain't going to apply to you. And then we just saw some people, it said you can give to a trust. Some of you don't even know what a trust is. That's fine. But if I don't know, and somebody tells me you can give $13 million to a trust, and I don't know what that is or what that means, I'm just going to say, what's a trust? It's not hard. What is that? And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to read it again, because it's so many different places in this form, so many different places in this instructions where it tells you that last line that I kept reading in this video, where it says you must. I hate to curse, but dang, maybe y'all get it if I curse. You fucking must do it. You United States citizen, you complaining fat ass United States citizen running around sucking up all this goodness and then fucking complaining about it. You must get this gift tax exemption. You must get it. You must not allow yourself to be taxed. You must get this gift tax exemption, you stupid fucker. How else do they got to say it to you? I don't understand. It's so much to complain about, and yet there's so much benefit and opportunity standing right next to the shit you can be complaining about. You just got to choose which one you want. And some of us, we just rather complain. That shit just tickles your fancy somehow to be a complainer, to be a victim. I'm trying. I ain't trying to do that shit, y'all. I'm trying to figure out what's out there, what opportunities are available to me. What other things can I do besides scroll and doom scroll and just say the world is a horrible place to live in? What else? The fuck else is there besides that shit? Once you get that type of mindset, then you're gonna start chasing some of this shit down. And like I said, it don't all apply to you. It's right here in the instructions. We saw everything don't apply to everybody. But we also saw in the instructions where it say, if it apply to you, do it. What the fuck is you waiting for? Stop complaining, man. Stop that shit. Find a way. Find something that apply to you and get at it. Because there's so many opportunities. Yeah, it's a lot of shit going on in the world. There's a lot of fucked up shit going on in the world that we scrolling past, and that's great. But it's a lot of fly shit happening too. It's a lot of opportunities rolling right past you, simple as if you just pay attention. So choose what you want. All right, it's 4:30. Is it 4:30? Yeah. All right, it's 4:30 where I'm at. I'm about to get up off of this thing. That was part 6. Thanks for hanging around to listen. And I think my wife is going to stream this to the YouTube people later or something like that. And to the TikTokers that joined, thank you for joining. Any questions? I don't got no answers, but any questions? Anything that's on your mind real quick before I close this thing out? If not, then yeah, thanks for coming by. Thanks for listening. All right, y'all be safe.